Well, hello, magnificent manifestors, beautiful beings, and preferred paranormal files. Paranormal files. I just made that word up. It's Broadcast Team Alpha, guys. It's Tuesday night, and we're doing it again. We're taking conversation and energy out into the quantum realm. And we have one of my favorite guests. I know I say that a lot, but I really, really mean it when I say it. One of our favorite guests coming on tonight. Augie's going to tell you all about him. Before we get started, I want to invite you to the membership group here on YouTube. The membership group is finally, building some momentum. It took us a little while to get into our groove. What is it, right? It's a membership community that has a little closer interaction with Augie and I, will be privy to information that may not be put out to the public anytime soon, maybe if ever, we don't know. We're kind of test driving some really vulnerable and personal things back there. We have gatherings. We bring in amazing readers and psychics that do personal readings for you, and a naturopathic doctor to come speak to you. And membership has perks. What was that? Is that American Express? I don't know. But membership has perks. So come join us. It's a ridiculously low amount of money. I think it's like $4. I'm beginning my Breaking the Cycle of Abuse series back there. I don't know if I'll ever release it out into the public. So if that's something, if domestic violence or narcissism is something that's close to your heart, something you want to learn about, my first video is going up this week. I'm holding back to that. I gave it to him. And the videos are just going to continue as I tell my story of, growing up in a home where I learned that love was supposed to hurt, and then perpetuating it through my life until I decided I wanted to unlearn it. And if you're going through that, you can unlearn it too. Augie, tell us about our cool guests. I'm so excited.
Yes, this is going to be fun. We have Tom Dongo with us again. He is, I've said this a couple of times, and this time I do want to say it again because he's almost a legend in his own time. He's been around a long time and researching the paranormal and what you are not supposed to know about. See, Tom is recognized as one of America's leading experts also on the paranormal, UFO, extraterrestrials, and his favorite thing to do, remote viewing. And that is his specialty, and we're going to talk about that in the beginning of this show. He's a speaker at many national and international conferences. Tom Dongo is also an author of, I don't know how many books he's got now. It was 8 last time he was here, and it may even be more now. I'm not sure. But he has been interviewed on over 3 dozen national and international TV shows and over 40 international talk shows, including Coast to Coast, which is, one of the really big ones. And he has a book out that really caught my attention. That is Merging Dimensions. And later on in the show here, if you can get him to talk a little bit about that one also, I think I got stuck on this one because that just caught my attention because that's where I am. And I would say, actually, I've said enough. Tom, welcome to the show, Tom.
Welcome, Tom. Yay.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Well, it's a sheer pleasure to be back on the show again.
Yeah.
So good to have you. It's so good to see you again. Like I mentioned before, I know you've been through a lot. Lots of people have gone through a lot. Your energy is so different and it feels so good. So it's especially nice to have you here tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a compliment. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. So a lot of people are here because they love you, but they also love talking about remote viewing. And you're one of the best. You know a lot of stuff. You know a lot of stuff you can't even tell us, and we get that. But where shall we start when it comes to remote viewing?
Well, let me start. I wish everybody was a remote viewer. I think at one time we probably were, and we've just lost the skill. But I really feel like I don't have anybody to play with sometimes. I wish that I could sit down with a group of people and just have a cup of coffee, all remote viewers, and talk about the stuff, that we've seen. And I had a girlfriend 15 years ago. She was a government trained remote viewer and psychic. And we would do that. We would travel around the universe, she and I. And, mentally we would say, oh, look at that, look at that planet, or, look what's going on down there. We could go ahead in the future and go and go in the past. It's actually very easy. If you're a remote viewer, it's easy to go into the past. I like to, when I relax, I like to go back about 1,000 or 2,000 years to an English or a village, and just sit there and watch things. You can sit and you can smell everything, and you can the baking and the everything else. There's a lot of bad smells, but there's a lot of good smells because the air was so much purer back then. So. And nobody can see you. You just sit there and watch things, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So I missed doing that she left about 15 years ago. She had to move back up to Washington State. So I really do. I know a few very good remote viewers, government trained remote viewers. They were trained by Ingo Swann and Russell Targ. And they've all moved away now. I'm the only one here again. But we've had, a friend of mine, he's a retired Air Force colonel, and we would sit in a restaurant, and I would tell him, I joke, it's a good thing we're not in Omaha somewhere, and somebody overhears what we're talking about. We probably wouldn't get out of this town alive. Because even if you knew what I've told a lot of my friends that are top-notch researchers, if you had any idea what he and I talk about, like going to Mars, and there are U.S. bases on Mars. He's talked about them. He's been there, and they're real hostile to remote viewers. The U.S. bases on Mars. So stuff like that I really wish, and I've tried. I've had big groups. And I've tried to give my abilities away, my remote viewing abilities, because I want to create. I wish I could create 1 million remote viewers. I would love to do it, and I've tried. I've been on shows like this where there were 1 million listeners or more. The several shows I've been on, there were over 8 or 10 million people, and I actually tried to give my abilities away. I had a group of 30 people from all over the country, and I said, you guys take my abilities, I give them to you. And they were wonderful people, but I'll tell you what, it took me 4 days to recover.
Wow.
It just drained me so bad. It took the next couple of days, I could hardly move. It drained me so bad. So I really won't do that again with people that are in the immediate area. But I really would, because if people could see what I see, I'm not doing this on an ego thing at all. I wish that, that they could travel to things I see, and deal with. And some of it's not all good. Some of it's wonderful beyond imagination, but some of it is really scary. Like I've solved a couple of murders. I will never ever do it again, because you're in the, you feel everything, you see everything. And the last one was a 9-year-old girl, and after that one, I said I'll never do another one. So anyway, there's good and bad to remote viewing, but you have to, if you mature enough, you can take it. And, one thing I caution people, don't use it to spy on your husband or your wife, or it won't go well for you. If you use it for a bad outcome, a negative outcome, it will come back on you. So use it for good, use remote viewing for good. So what is remote viewing?
I just want to ask you a quick question related to that. What kind of laws, the universal laws, what kind of laws govern that? That if you use it for bad, it's not going to go good for you, or?
Well, I think it just is, and once you realize it, that like I do, I'll tell you a story. I've got lots of stories, endless stories. But about 10 years ago, I was at when General Stubblebine was doing a convention in Denver. I was the only one in the place that didn't have a PhD. So, but I could remote view. And during his talk, and there was probably 500 people in the audience, he was talking about his best remote viewers can't get through the blocks. And I've been dealing with them for years. And I almost wanted to jump up and down and wave my hand. I know how, but I didn't. So I I learned early on how to get it, because you will get blocked. If there's something you're not supposed to see, you'll get blocked. And I don't know who is doing it. So what bothers me a little bit is I've run into this so often, especially with the missing 411. You'll get stopped, and it's like somebody slammed on your brakes. And then they say, this is as far as you're going to go, and don't even try to go any further. So it's a warning. And so what would they do if I did? I'm not going to push it.
Yeah.
So, but it gets, there are realms out there that none of us are aware of, and I'm going to say that none of us. That there's, Charles Fort was right in 1920. When he quit, he was the first major paranormal researcher, and he said, we are somebody's herd of cattle, and we are. On some level, but we're being controlled. Is it the reptilians or the Dracos or what? I don't know, because I don't, I'm not going to even touch that. I'm just not. So anyway, that's kind of remote viewing in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah, but I know also that you teach this, and maybe it is not as hard to learn as possibly people think. But is there, I remember you said that you had some of the information available to people that could actually go and try to learn this. Is that still there?
Yeah, well, Maureen St. Germain and I periodically we teach classes, and we've been very successful. Maureen teaches the military version. I teach what she calls the Tom Dongo version. We combine them, and it works great. Because my version is completely different than the military's. And I've had military trained remote viewers try mine. And one guy, he was a military trained remote viewer. He trained his 10-year-old son. He came back to me a couple of months later, and he said, my son has had 100% hit rate using your technique. So, he was a government trained remote viewer. So anyway, it's been an interesting trip. I just told you I'm going to try to live to be 85, and I'm going to. So I hope I do, because I want to. Make a lot more dense before I get too old. But remote viewing is an incredible thing.
Yeah, maybe it isn't as hard to learn as possibly people think. And if somebody's interested in remote viewing, what do you think they should do in order to learn it? Should they contact you, or is there a place they can read about it, or?
Well, there's some great books out. They're all the military version, though. I read a couple of them, and they're really big, thick books, and they're okay. I mean, if you're dedicated enough, you can learn remote viewing through the military version. And Maureen and I have done it. We've turned we've trained maybe 10 people out of our classes have become master remote viewers. A couple of them have even amazed me. I told them, you're doing things I can't do. And they learned that. They learned that. We taught them. So do people have a natural ability for remote viewing and some don't? I don't know. I really don't. But it may be like trying to train a psychic. You can't train a psychic because everybody has a different psychic ability. But it's a fascinating thing. It takes dedication. They have to want to do it. Seriously.
What do you see on Mars?
Well, my friend, my friend, the Air Force colonel, we would go there, and there's American bases on Mars, and they if they see you snooping around, they don't like it. They can get real nasty. They have people that probably remote viewers that protect those places. So he and I quit doing that because we kind of got threatened, and we don't know how far the threats could go.
Yeah.
But we're on Mars. We've been on Mars. Half of these flying saucers we see here aren't alien. They're ours. I mean, this has been going on since 1950. Yeah. But I have seen alien craft. I've been so close you could hit one with a BB gun. It was less than 50 feet away from me. It was an alien spacecraft. That thing was not made on this planet. I can guarantee it. So, and I had 6 witnesses in the car. When I talk about something, I can prove it. If I say something, I can. Yeah.
Why are the ones that we've seen ours? How does that work?
They're anti-gravity. They've had the technologies since probably Roswell. Colonel Corso. He said that they back engineered the Roswell crashes, and they probably used the technology from the Roswell crashes to build their own, and a few others. There have been. I was a good friend of Wendell Stevens, Colonel Wendell Stevens, and he was the top, and Bob Dean, and they were the top UFO researchers that ever lived. And so I used to sit with Bob Dean and smoke cigars with him. He would tell me everything he knew.
Yeah.
So I know a lot, and they get they'll look at you like, are you really that stupid that you don't already know that we have our own UFOs? Probably a third of the ones you see flying around are ours, not alien, and they're anti-gravity, so anyway, that's where that's at.
Thank you for clarifying that. Somebody asked a question. Would you mind taking a quick question?
Sure. Oh, sure.
Mercy asks, Tom, when you do the remote viewing of the past, people, whoever is around in the past, are they there during that period, or are they there from the future, like you, since you've gone into the past from the future?
Boy, that is a really good question. It's something that just came up. Yeah. That's something that came up for me lately. Maybe we are the only ones that are stuck in time, or think we're stuck in time. There may not be a past or a future. It may be a simultaneous time, because I was reading something the other day where, Nostradamus. It was Dolores Cannon was one of her students started talking about Nostradamus, and Dolores said that wasn't my question, but it was Nostradamus that came through, and he said my quatrains have been totally misinterpreted as they've been changed from French to English or whatever. So the girl ended up clarifying all of Nostradamus's quatrains, and it took evidently a long time, a year or more. And so Dolores said, "Are you dead?" And he said, "No, I'm not dead. I'm alive in France now, in the same time frame you are." So I'm going, yeah. So where does that lead you? That's pretty wild stuff.
That's part of our being farmed. That's part of our being controlled. Just like we've forgotten how to remote view, we've forgotten that everything is now. Everything is now.
Yes, yeah. So what if we were able to use that? People have been dumbed down through the years, and they really, I've been able to, I have strange abilities. I can scan things. I can look into a human body. I've done it on hundreds of people. I've even done it on medical doctors. They say, okay, bud, try me, And I've done it on medical doctors. And one medical doctor said, oh, you got 99% of it, but you missed my back. I said, okay, turn around. And I said, oh, right here. And he goes, oh, that's it. So, we need, I wish I could give my abilities away. I can see into a human body, and I used to be able to read minds. Yeah. Oh,
I'll be gentle with you if you give it to me.
Yeah. So, and I do crazy things. I was telling you guys earlier that I was standing next to, I can't remember his name now. The government, I used to do it. It's boring now. But I was going out on spaceships. There are many alien crafts orbiting the Earth, many, maybe thousands. So I would go out and hang out on these crafts, in remote viewing. And I found out the government was doing the same thing. So because the government, I forgot his name. But he was standing right next to me talking about it. And I said, well, I'm not crazy after all. So some of the stuff that I thought I was going insane have come true. They've been proven out.
Yeah.
So
there's another question. Oh, sorry. Captain K. Rod asks, Tom, how can you be punished for remote viewing on Mars?
Well, that's another good question. I don't think, if you get warned, I've never pushed it past that. But if you get warned, stay away. You stay away. And what can they do to you if you don't? I mean, you had the ability to go there and see these people or whatever you were to see. And so what if you push it? I mean, what would be the penalty? And I've come right up against those walls. And I was warned, don't go any further. But what if I did? And what would they do to me?
What would they do?
Yeah, I don't know. I really have no idea.
I think I have an idea on that, and that is that which I ran into, and that is that if you violate their directions, they can follow you home.
Yeah, yes.
And they can do something to you in your physical body.
Yes. I was talking to a guy one time in a coffee shop. I used to meet people every day in the coffee shops. It was just easier. I used to call him my office. This one guy, he had a genius IQ. And I started talking about these things. There's a few things that I got involved in. And he said, if these bad guys, if they see you, and he finished the sentence, they can follow you back. And they can. I have friends. I won't mention the names now, but that happened to, and they had a hard time fighting this stuff off. But yeah, they can follow you back. I'm afraid. I'm worried about that. I'm not. I'm really concerned about that.
Yeah, they are not necessarily the good guys. There are some of them that are, and. Some of these alien crafts, they may not mind at all. They might invite you and show you around the ship, but others, they don't feel that way.
Well, here's what happened to me. And my friend, anyway, he was telling the story. His name will come back to me. I mentioned it when we were talking earlier. And he was the government's top remote viewer 20 years ago. So what he did, and while he's talking about this, I'm going, oh God, how can this guy be so dumb to make a mistake like that? So what he did was, when you come up to an alien spacecraft, if you get closer and closer and closer, And if you get closer and closer, it feels welcoming. Then they don't mind you coming on, and they'll show you around. And he didn't. He got warned to stay away, but he went onto the ship anyway, and they grabbed him, and they put him in a box, and his body's down here, and his brain's up, whatever, his psyche's up there. They wouldn't let him go. Oh gosh, I wish I could. He was standing right beside me when he was telling this story. He was the government's top remote viewer at the time. So finally, they let him go, but he said it was a terrifying experience. They didn't hurt him, but they wouldn't let him go. And he couldn't get out of that box. They put him in some kind of a box, like glass or whatever. He couldn't get out of it. Tried everything. He couldn't get out of it. So they can do things like that. But I have been on ships where, they look up and they say, "Oh, another damn human," that kind of stuff. They can see it instantly. So I would float around the ship, and I could never read. Everything was kind of opaque. It's not clear. You look at it there. Well, for one thing, I didn't understand it anyway. I had no understanding what their control mechanisms were. They were so far advanced. I mean, some of these beings are millions of years ahead of us, millions. So we were,
I got a question though. When you go out there and you see and observe things, what goes out there? Is it your consciousness? Is this the astral vehicle, or is it just something else?
Okay, remote viewing is projecting your subconscious to a place, and time and distance has no meaning. It's you can go anywhere, because I've done it. I suppose there are different definitions of remote viewing, but mine is because I was born with an amazing remote viewing ability. I was probably a seer in a Tibetan village or something, because thousands of years ago they had seers that would go to remote villages and then come back and tell their village what they saw. So it's projecting your subconscious. That's my terminology anyway, because that's what I do. And then you look around, and then that's what we teach. Which Maureen and I teach. So.
Oh, go ahead, Nori.
There's another question. Do you want to ask yours first, Doggy, or?
Oh no, you go ahead.
So Captain K. Rod again says, Tom, have you ever looked back and looked or searched for Jesus Christ?
Oh boy, yeah, he was real. I have a friend. Bob Short. He died a little while ago, but he told us, his wife told a story. And they were visiting somebody, and their 5-year-old son started to talk like an adult. And they were going, "Wow, what's this?" And he said, I don't remember the conversation, but he said, "Plagiarist, don't you remember me? We were with Jesus his whole lifetime. Don't you remember me? Don't you recognize me?" And Bob said he was just absolutely blown away. This 5-year-old talking like an adult, a 50-year-old adult, plainly, and saying, "Don't you remember when we were with Jesus?" So, no, I haven't, but it's not a lot, but I have. Jesus was a real being, and I think he was an extraterrestrial. So I'll leave it at that.
That's what I get too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I actually, when I wrote one of my books, I found some papers, old papers, that says there were no records of him until he was about 5 years old. Yeah. Nobody knew where he came from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know if there's anything to that or not, but it was interesting reading that.
Well, Jesus did things that extraterrestrials can easily do. So, I spent the last 20 years intensely studying human extraterrestrials. I've met 3 face to face, and they're real. Our brothers and sisters from the stars are real. And I'm here to attest to that, because I've met them. We don't have time here to talk about that, but I have met them. So, and they have abilities some of these beings are literally 2 or 3 million years ahead of us. Not so much the humans. I think the human extraterrestrials are maybe 1,000, 2,000 years ahead of us. I don't think any of them are that. But the humanoids that come here can be millions of years ahead of us. I'm going to do it. So I've, I was just on a major documentary, and I talked about that I'd met them, and I said, and I looked at the cameras with $1 million worth of cameras pointing at me, and I said, no, they are real. They are our brothers and sisters from the stars, and they could tell I wasn't joking. I mean, a lot of people make this stuff up. I don't. When I talk about this stuff, I can prove it somehow with witnesses. And a lot of times I've had 4 or 5 witnesses with me that saw the same thing I did and had the same experience. Like I had a alien craft fly 50 feet, 20 feet over my van. I had six witnesses in the car at the same time that saw the same thing. And that thing was not from this planet. It was all orange. That's the best I can describe it. And it was kind of oblong shaped. It wasn't from this planet. And it wanted us to see it. For some reason, it wanted us to see it. Yeah.
When you explain your experiences, how you go out there and what you see and how you see, it has some similarities to what people experience when they do either conscious travel or astral travel.
Yeah.
Because as an astral traveler, I tried to get into the White House. Couldn't. Evidently, somebody didn't like me approaching it because there were 2 other astral travelers that came up and met me and did like this. And they were very stern. They got up in my face, and it was obviously that I was out of there. Another one is where you can go to the moon, and some of the bases up there, they don't want you in there either. And you will, like you said, you have a feeling. And that feeling, when you get close to it, you got to listen, because if they don't want you, they could do unspeakable things to you. And,
Well, the main reason, we're too violent for most of them. The human, us, the Earth human race, we're too violent. They just don't want to have anything to do with us because they can't trust us. And they've said that. We can't trust you people.
Understandingly so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, what about the ranch? What have you seen there?
Skinwalker or Bradshaw? Let's start with Skinwalker. I met him a few months ago. Brandon Fugel. He owns the Skinwalker Ranch. He signed. That's his signature right there. That's it. So we met for an hour or two, and Brandon Fugel is just a fine man. He's just a fine man. So he owns Skinwalker Ranch. So, and I've talked with some people that have spent a lot of time there, and I know the story, the early story. I can scan things from a distance. I do. It's a psychic scan. It really has not much to do with remote viewing. I can psychically scan things from a distance. I've been doing it for a long time. I'm not as good at it as I used to be. So I scanned the Skinwalker Ranch, and I was George Knapp. It was George Knapp that I was talking to, and I did a year ago. I was a speaker at the Phenomenon in Vernal, Utah. Wonderful thing to go to. I had the time of my life there. And the Skinwalker Ranch is only about 15 miles away. So I got a lot of Skinwalker Ranch news. One morning I woke up, and incidentally, I haven't watched TV in 10 years, so I don't have a TV. I have no idea what's on TV. So I've gotten the Skinwalker Ranch firsthand. Yeah, and so one morning I woke up in Vernal, Utah, and I was looking at a creature I thought, oh boy, this is interesting. This is the kind of stuff that happens to me. And it was on the Skinwalker Ranch. And if I could get that thing to look at me, I could talk to it. I told George Knapp about this. We were standing side by side together at the convention. Yeah. And so that thing, by the way, they will never, the Skinwalker Ranch, I've seen a couple of episodes. They're never going to find out with equipment. It's going to be psychics or remote viewers that will solve that. They're never going to get it with cameras or radar and ground penetrating radar and that stuff. It's not going to happen. So anyway, this creature, it was a life form I have never seen, and it was on the Skinwalker Ranch. And it's not the only one. There are others. And this thing was kind of a blob, and it had eyes of a sort. So I talked to it, and the thing was, I'd never seen anything like that ever anywhere. It was an Earth-based creature. It'd been there, and that was its turf, the Skinwalker Ranch, and it didn't like. That thing was basically humoring the researchers that are there. And it's done, when it can in 2:00 in the afternoon, if two people can walk by a calf, 10 minutes later, they come back and it's ripped to shreds, and they heard no sound. If that creature can do that, and if it can stash 5 2,000-pound bulls in a freezer without the door being locked, if that thing can project 2,000-pound bulls into a freezer, an old freezer, they were just using it for storage. If it can do that, it's very dangerous. So I scanned all of that stuff, and if it, I was hoping they wouldn't ask me if I wanted to go on a Skinwalker Ranch. I would have refused, but I scanned it from a distance, and there's something there I don't understand it. And I'm sure the government remote viewer has been doing it, and they don't talk about a lot of this stuff. They just don't do it. And the government knows all sorts of things about extraterrestrials, and they're not telling us. Because I know pretty much what the government knows. It's not hard to remote view it. So the Skinwalker Ranch is it's a real paradigm. If that thing ever became really violent, it would get, because it was a life form that was I don't want to say evil, but it had an evil feeling to it, and it wasn't the only one. There were others. It's and conversely, the Bradshaw Ranch, which I spent 4.5 years on, the stuff that happened on the Bradshaw Ranch was very positive, but no one was ever hurt in any way. It's Linda Bradshaw and we wrote, Merging Dimensions about it, and it's a very popular book. So it's, what's the difference? And then you got this, the other ranch down by Phoenix, I can't remember what that one is. But anyway, there's 3 ranches, and each ranch has a different, thing going on. And there's something on the Bradshaw Ranch, and I've tried to remote view it, and I can't. It's a life form that's a fog. It shows up as fog on films and prints, and it's been there ever since the Bradshaw Ranch is in ruins now, total ruins. But that fog has showed up occasionally, and it did. I was out there on the Bradshaw Ranch about a month ago, and it showed up on some of my shots in broad daylight, 2:00 in the afternoon. So it's a living form of some kind that I don't understand. So there's a lot of stuff on this planet. We hopefully there'll be enough people, or the government, they'll release some of the information if people can deal with it, if they can have the ability to understand it. That's the problem. and even some of people like me would probably have a hard time, understanding some of these things, because I know there's something beyond anything that we have an understanding of as physical beings like we are. That's around us that, we need to understand it and we need to deal with it. And if we, with awareness, there's defense, so it's hopefully that it's going to change. We'll be more enlightened.
I know on the Bradshaw Ranch too, they have get-togethers every so often. At least they used to, I think. And then they got some really weird pictures that some people are able to take once in a while.
Well, I've signed an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, so I can't talk about it. But a major documentary is going to be coming out in about 6 months on the Bradshaw Ranch, and they've got all the best of stuff I've ever had. They're going to use it. Yeah. I'm a big part of it, and so it's and they have the best of the best of stuff I have. And unfortunately, Linda died a couple of years ago. She took a lot with her when she moved to Montana, so that's gone forever. Some of the really good stuff, as good as some of the stuff I have. So anyway, the Bradshaw Ranch, there's a lot of people go out there every chance they get. It's wide open right now. There's no guards or anything. So they're in Bigfoot, a lot of Bigfoot activity lately in that area, a lot. Tracks and sounds, screams and strange whistles and that sort of thing. And Dogman. There have been 3 Dogman sightings in this area. And I've interviewed 2 of those people, and my friends that saw it. So, they interviewed these people also. So there's Dogman and Bigfoot, and they're in this area. So what's a Dogman? Yeah.
What do you think about that? Is that Dogman actually a real physical being that stay here all the time, or is it an interdimensional thing that kind of fades out into maybe a higher or lower vibration and come back?
Yeah. No, you're talking about Bigfoot. That's Bigfoot. Bigfoot. I'm going to be on a major documentary. In fact, I had the whole film crew in here in my living room. My little living room behind me. The whole film crew is here. And it's going to be a major documentary on Bigfoot. I said flat out, Bigfoot they are aliens. They are not. They can come and go. They can materialize and dematerialize. And I've got some of these world authorities on Bigfoot really think I'm a real nutcase, But when a creature can start, you see the tracks, it goes 100 yards, and then they stop, disappear. That's a creature that can materialize and dematerialize. But you tell that to some of these guys, and they think you're. I had one guy walk away from me. He said, "Oh, no way, not possible. No, I don't want to hear it." And he'd walk away. So good, Can't take a joke, So anyways, it's and then Dogman. Now Dogman is an earth creature. I've studied Dogman a lot, and they're a werewolf. They are a werewolf. I've interviewed people that had firsthand experiences with them close up, and we have 3 in this area now. And the tracks. We in Lincoln Canyon. One of my friends, Jeremy, found tracks. Jurgen. No, it was Jurgen that found the tracks, and they were dog-like tracks, heavy creature. So anyway, that's what we need to understand this stuff better, not just I don't want to hear that. That's negative, that kind of stuff. I just,
Yeah. I know over in Europe, in the Black Forest and in Bavaria over there, they have an awful lot of the Dogman. They have sightings all the time in that area. Yeah. Also over into Romania, they have. They're everywhere. Yeah, but nobody talks about it.
Well, they don't dare to. They don't. There's a. There in the southern states like Tennessee, there are teams that And dogmen can be a real problem. They have no fear of humans whatsoever, and they can be a problem. And Bigfoot isn't. Bigfoot is basically a very gentle creature, and they can be dangerous when they've been shot or something like that. The people that have been hurt by a Bigfoot, the Bigfoot had probably been shot. But dogmen are, and they're real. They're absolutely real. Most of them are around the Mississippi River, the Midwest United States, all the way to Canada. Most of them are in that area, the Mississippi Valley. And so they're, I hope I never run into one, because I know too much about dogmen now.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh. Oops, Nori, you're muted.
I'm muted, but I think Tom heard me. There's another question. Captain K-Rod said, Tom, has any remote viewer or extra-dimensional beings ever contacted you through remote viewing?
Yes.
Yeah.
They yeah. Well, let me back up a little bit. Yes, they have. And they don't talk like we do. They're most, some can, but they're mostly telepathic, and they project. They talk in pictures. A picture is worth 1,000 words. They send a picture, and you have to interpret it. And sometimes they'll send me one so big. I don't do this anymore. I haven't done it for 10 years. But they'll send a picture so big, they'll say, I can't understand that. I can't interpret it. So they send a simpler one. So. I talk. They can read my thoughts, but yeah, they're not uncommon. If we accept these creatures, these beings, we need to. I mean, they're our relatives. They're out there. They're all around us. And so we need to understand them. We really do. I mean, not be scared of them. Yeah, there's some we need to be afraid of, but we need to know who they are.
Right. Stay away from them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Maybe you. Oh, go ahead, Nori.
Nope, you go.
All right. In your book, Merging Dimensions, I kind of think that you're actually going into some of this, because what we have here is what we have in our dimension, but there are other dimensions that we may have a bleed over from time to time.
Oh, yes.
Something come through. Do you talk about that book a
Yes.
little bit?
Oh, yes. There's been a lot of cryptids seen lately that are not from this planet. Yeah, strange creatures like Skinwalker. Well, Skinwalker it's an Earth creature, and Skinwalkers are very real, and they're it's hard to describe a Skinwalker. But anybody has any interest, look it up on Google. There's all kinds of stuff on Skinwalkers, and they are real, because I deal with Zunis. Some of my best friends have been Zunis, Apaches, Navajo, and some of the others. I mean, I've worked with the Indians for a long time, so I asked them questions. My best friend was Clifford Mahooty, and Clifford died about a year ago. He was my best friend. He was a Zuni.
I didn't know he passed.
Yeah.
Aw,
Yeah, he was my best friend. Clifford Mahooty, yeah, wonderful man. He was a Zuni elder. Yeah. And so we would talk about stuff. And, Cliff, for some reason, he would talk to me, but, other people, he would talk, indirectly, but he would tell me straight off, because, anyway, I miss Cliff Mahooty, our coffee breaks in the morning and all that kind of stuff. He was a wonderful man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So people in the chat are asking about vampires. Were werewolves man-made? And what about pixies and elves and things like that? Any thoughts?
Yeah. We get, that's too deep for us to get into tonight. But yeah, the elves and the fairies are real. The fairies are very real. Well, let me tell a quick story. I got a million stories. My memory. But anyway, he was the police chief of the tribe in northern Washington. Police chief. And a friend of mine interviewed him. Oh gosh. Anyway, so he interviewed the police chief in his uniform, standing beside his patrol car, and he was talking about the little people that he used to run into on his patrols. And he said that one time he was coming down a mountain road, a dirt road, and he said this woman was crossing the road in front of him with a bundle of sticks over his shoulder, and it was a remote place. So he stopped his patrol car and got out. And he realized the woman was 15 inches tall. So she started to run, and he was chasing her, and she was running through some boulders and just disappeared. I mean, this is a police chief, of an Indian nation. My memory. Anyway, so he's got him. I saw the video. He's got the police chief's in uniform by his patrol car telling these stories about the little people he had run into. And, in the stories I've read about, especially in Scotland, about the fairies and the leprechauns can be mean little buggers. They're real.
Ask the Irish, they know all about it. In fact, over in Norway, go ahead.
You go, Augie. Yep.
No, I was just saying that over in Norway, we have a lot of stories about these short little guys. They call them trolls.
Trolls,
usually a little stocky, but they have clothes and shoes like we do, but they're just really short, and they live in the woods, in caves and stuff.
Yeah.
Ever so often they're seen, and a lot of people have say, yes, I'll swear on a stack of Bible, that's what I saw.
Yeah, I'll tell you an interesting story I'm half Norwegian, so I can relate to that.
Yeah. My
relatives came from Mandal, Norway. And anyways, this woman said, I got to tell you a story. Can you have a few minutes? I said, yeah, sure. She said, I grew up in Sacramento, and I was out playing in our vegetable garden one day, and there was a little man. And he was dressed like he had a funny little hat on. He was real colorful, green, looked like a little elf. An elf, yeah. So she grabbed him and ran into the house with him. And she was going, Daddy, look what I got. And he was reading the newspaper, and he says, I'll come back later, dear. I'm reading the sports page. So I said, Daddy, come on. Look. Yeah. He says, come on, Daddy, look at this. And the little man was kicking like crazy, trying to get out, So finally, her father put the newspaper down, and she put the little man down at the same time. And he ran out the door, and he had a hard time he was so small, he had a hard time getting down the steps. Then he ran off into the garden and disappeared. She said, I'm not making this up. This really happened. I'm sure it did. I've heard lots of stories like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We have to have you on and maybe talk about that when we have more time.
Yeah. Boy, that hour went by fast.
I know. What's next for you? We've got 7 minutes left. What's next for you besides this documentary that's coming up?
Of the things that you can talk about.
Well, you guys are the 75th worldwide radio show I've been on, and we figure I've talked to about 100 million people in the years, 4 years and I've talked about anything and everything. I mean, I've had my fingers in 50 years. I've dabbled in everything. Ghosts. I was in a ghost for a while, and they're real. You can talk to them. And extraterrestrials, and you name it. I'm into anything that's interesting. And lately, a lot of Bigfoot activity around here. Been really interesting here.
Where are you in Arizona?
Yes, Cottonwood, Arizona. It's a little bit 20 miles south of Sedona. Everybody knows where Sedona is, but they don't know.
You can't even rent an apartment there right now. Everybody has migrated there. I have a question. Out of everything that we've talked about and everything that you know regarding higher consciousness and wanting to evolve, where is the best what is the best thing, the best place for us to put our focus?
Well, that's a good one. I've worked with that for years, and they're irritated with us because we're not trying hard enough to connect with them. I've talked, and they say, you humans, you're into your football games and your hamburgers, and your TVs. You're really not. We want to connect with you, but if you just, she said, believe in us for one thing. We're higher beings, and don't put us on a pedestal. We don't like that. Don't worship us. We don't want that. But believe that we're real and that we can teach you things you need to know. That's what they said.
Yeah.
So get away from the TV and try and make better contact. Try to make contact.
And it's not hard. I had a group. I've talked to many, many audiences, and just, use your imagination. But a lot of times it's not your imagination.
Right.
The great writer Isaac Asimov said, anything you can imagine is real somewhere. So no, don't think that some lofty being, an ascended master, or somebody doesn't want to bother with you because you're too lowly. Well, they want to know, they want you, they want to connect with you. And they're just, open yourself to it and just imagine that you're talking to Archangel Michael or something like that. And you may really be. It may not be your imagination. So, think of that.
I like that. Thank you.
Now, there is one more thing that I would want to mention, and I'm not so sure how deeply involved you want to get in talking about it, but you do some things in the area of health. You have a way to look into a person just like Edgar Cayce did.
Yeah.
And you can see things that is wrong in the body. If a joint is out of joint, or if there's a tumor or other things, you can see it.
The interesting thing is I've been doing this for people. I used to have coffee in the morning. People would come up to me, and it used to happen a lot. And they'd say, "Can you scan me?" I always did it. I didn't get offended by it. I take my time, and do that for them. And if somebody, but the thing is, I can't, say what to cure the disease with, but I can see it. So I have a friend, Jay Caliendo in Phoenix. He and I are the only two people I have ever run into in my life that can do this. Jay Caliendo and I can do the same thing. He sees into a human body a little bit different than I do, but he's the same way. So I can, and I don't want to do this. Don't a million people don't email me because I'm not getting. I don't do this. I don't do this. I'm inundated with emails as it is. So. But yeah, I can look at a human body. I told you they did this with a doctor. The doctors. I've had medical doctors come up to me and say, "Okay, bud, check me out." So I said, "All right, yeah." So just stand still. And there was one guy. He was a head of a New York clinic, an addiction clinic in New York. He was a heavyweight. He was overweight. He was very overweight. So he says, "Scan me, see what you see." So I scanned the body from the brain down. And I just scan the body, and I can see things that are wrong: joints, tumors, cancer is awful. So anyway, I scanned him, and he said, "Well, you got 99% of it right, but you missed one thing." And I said, "Yeah, what?" And he said, "My back." So he turned around, and I said, "Oh yeah." So I put my finger on his back and pressed. He goes, "Oh, that's it." So, but you know what? He was under stress all the time, so he was very heavy. He was obese, and I couldn't see through him. So when he turned around, I could instantly see the problem in his back. And I did that once with a chiropractor. He came to Sedona. He said, "I want you to look at my back." He was a chiropractor. That's what he did for a living. So he said, I have a back problem. So I said, "Yeah, it's right here. These nerves, and there's some blood here, and there's a sore here." And he was so impressed. He wanted me to come to Palo Alto, California. He was going to set me up in an office. And it's not illegal to see his patients and tell him what was wrong with them. And then he'd send the patients in. He was going to pay me very well. And I said, no, I just came from California and I'm not going back there. So this is 30 years ago.
Wow.
I have an interesting ability. I don't know why.
Awesome.
I don't know why. Maybe I'm an alien. I don't know.
Maybe you are. Maybe you are.
Yeah.
But it's 9:00 here, 6:00 your guys' time, and the hour went so fast. Tom, you have to come back soon and talk with us again, please. It was so.
Well, I love you guys. I love you guys. So I'll do that. I'd be happy to do that. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
and
wonderful.
the chat room was so happy and very lively and amazing. So, Augie, why don't you ask Tom your favorite question?
Oh, yes. You may even remember this because I think I asked you once before, but maybe this answer will be different. If you could speak to the whole wide world, Tom, and the world was listening, what would you tell them?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Be open-minded and believe. There's so many people that are closed-minded. I have friends. I try to explain things to them. They have this glazed look in their eyes. They have no idea what I'm trying to say. Be open and aware. I'll tell you this real quick. Dolores Cannon said once, if I had to live with unconscious people, unaware people, I would die. So that's the way most people are. So be open, be aware, and search, be open to things that sound crazy, but you need to know it. There's a lot of stuff that we need to know. So I would say be open, be aware, be curious, and things that are maybe strange, that may seem frightening, but they're really not. I mean, I've dabbled in everything you can imagine, and I'm still here. I'm even older than Augie, so
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I didn't catch that, so I better go back and run the tape.
It's good. It's good. So, Tom.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
One thing, Tom, and that what you just said, that's even scriptural. Remember Hosea? He said, "My people perish for lack of knowledge."
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Being inquisitive, curious, search, look.
And that knowledge, we don't get it without having an open mind.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Yes. Open mind. Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Boy. Well, thanks, Tom, for being with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody,
Always
for
fun.
being here.
Yeah.
Thanks for
one last thing. Where can they go and look at all your books?
Well, Amazon. Some of my books are out of print now, but Amazon still has books. So Amazon, and I always get asked, well, how can they contact you? Well, don't, because I'm 5,000. I was 25,000 emails behind once, and now I'm about 8,000 behind. So
wow.
Don't.
You're gaining.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. Margaret, thank you. I saw that super chat slide by. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next week with more amazing conversations. And much love, everybody. Much love, Tom. See you guys. Good night, Augie. Good night, Matt.
Thank you very much. And in the words of Spock, live long and prosper.
Yeah.